Good afternoon and welcome to our September 14th fiscal year 22 tentative budget hearing. We're going to start off with a brief introduction this afternoon
Yes, ma'am.
by County Administrator Taryn Krista.
Thank you. So today was interesting because the board heard and saw a few things that I believe warrant highlighting again. You recognize the Little League North. Mr. Rogers was very complimentary of our parks and staff. Then we went over to the sheriff's office to see the latest air asset, which allows Martin County's sheriff, for the very first time, the ability to rescue individuals in remote areas, particularly. Following that, we had a presentation by Ecosystem Restoration and the inventory we have of sensitive lands and how the expense to maintain those properties and provide amenities that the county offers. The common thread that I heard today was how unique Martin County is. What wasn't highlighted was that none of these accomplishments the Board of County Commissioners have achieved are funded mostly with taxes. This budget, as presented, continues those services currently being provided as well as enhancements that the board has directed. Your staff has worked diligently to meet the needs of your communities, and we provide an excellent level of service for the taxpayers in Martin County. I realize with this budget, as proposed, comes with it a very slight increase in the tax rate. Overall, the millages proposed total a 1.6% increase in the tax rates. We have a dynamic with this budget this year where we need a supermajority vote. The millage for the Board of County Commissioners countywide, which is Resolution A, which is primarily the general fund and includes your capital improvement plan and also the medical services component. We provided a graph for you that shows of your ad valorem that's collected by taxes, the sheriff has 34% of that. Fire rescue has 21% of that. The constitutional offices have 8%, and the Board of County Commissioners really only have 36% for their operations. So the other taxing authority that needs a supermajority vote is countywide MSTU unincorporated, which is Q, which funds stormwater and road maintenance. This is primarily due to the fact that we've had a loss in gas tax. It's been pretty stagnant, and we had to supplant it with taxes in order to continue to maintain our roads. So that's kind of my intro, and with that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Manning to do her brief presentation.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Jennifer Manning for the record, OMB Director. This is the first of two public hearings that we're required to do. And for this public hearing, the board is required by Florida statute to adopt a tentative budget. And included in this agenda are resolutions for the taxing authority, millage and corresponding budget, as well as other county funds that does not have a millage. The budgets were tentatively approved on July 19th this year. The first important issue to be discussed is a percent of increase in the millages over the rollback rate, and we also have to provide specific reasons for those increases. The rollback rate may be higher, therefore the proposed millage may be a decrease over the rollback rate. And in definition, the rollback rate is the rate that would generate the prior year's taxes, less allowances, and of new construction and additions. The rollback rate in this instance are all the taxing authorities that are included here, and the rollback rate is stated on the slide and shows the increase over the rollback rate. I will not read all those rates because those are included in the resolutions and they have to be read at the end of this presentation. And as Ms. Krizler pointed out, all our millages are within the maximum rate required by Florida statutes, with the exception of the countywide and the unincorporated roads and stormwater. Those require a 4 out of 5 votes. So as far as the ad valorem increases, countywide, $11.8 million overall. The fire, stormwater, roads, and special district was $3.2 million, which totals $15 million. The CIP that was approved in April and tentatively approved in July is an increase of roughly $3.1 million. Of those, there are projects included in Charlie Layton, Citrus Grove, and parks, and then in the Riverside Park and the golf course. The building had the courtroom security hardening refurbishment. Library and fire rescue had a small increase for vehicle replacement and RFID replacements. And then we have the coastal for Manatee Pocket and the countywide resiliency program. An ecosystem requested funding for Kitchen Creek Flowway and Hawks Hammock. So the reason for those increases, other than capital, we have funding for the constitutional officers, which is $5.1 million, and we have the tangible personal property, and these are just the large items, $900,000. The tax collector fees, this is what we pay to the tax collector, is $650,000. The CRA is $648,000. The property insurance is $487,000.
Ms. Manning, can you speak a little more into the microphone, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, the FRS unfunded mandate in the countywide is $350,000. Then we have E911 requesting an additional $300,000, and we wanted to fund a portion of a grant that is expiring for that services the veterans of $175,000, and that equates to $8.6 million in the countywide, in the general fund. And then we have increases in ad valorem in the fire, stormwater, and roads, and those include the contract obligation of $1.8 million, the FRS unfunded mandate of $674,000, lack of increase in gas tax, as Ms. Criser alluded to earlier, and then we have the county CRA obligation of $136,000, the Morin Field subsidy of $121,000, and Special District A $70,000. So those are the increases, those are the reasons for those increases in the millage. And then we have, so I'm just going to reiterate, FY21 millage was 6.7618, and requesting, the tentative is 6.9275, which is a 2.451 increase. The MSGUs is 3.5152, and FY22 is 3.5161. which is 0.026%. Overall, our total millage, not included in the districts, is in FY21 was 10.2770, and the tentative is 10.4436, which totals an increase of 1.621. The taxable value for FY21 was 23.9 billion. And then the amount for FY22 is $25.1 billion. The total ad valorem in FY21 is $214.9 million, and the FY22 is $229.9 roughly million. Our total budget is $491.4 in FY21 million, and we're requesting $530.34 million. Our BOCC positions are 161.5 positions in FY21 and 1,086.5 in FY22. The constitutional officers has 741 in FY21 and 745 in FY22. And the millage, again, as stated prior. So with that, it wraps up my brief presentation. And as for the tentative budget, the resolutions do not have to be read in full, but you must state the taxing authority, the rollback rate, and percent increase or decrease over the rollback rate, and the millage to be levied. With that, I will answer any questions.
Anyone have questions for Ms. Manning?
Not now.
Sounds like we'll reserve our questions. So now, at this point, we'll take public comment. So if you are here to speak on the FY 2020 22 budget hearing, then you will have 3 minutes to comment. You will receive a notice just prior to that time being 15 seconds prior to that time being up, and that will notify you that your 3 minutes is approaching. So with that, and also fill out a speaker form and give to the bailiff. Anybody wishing to public comment? You can fill it out when you're done.
Can I talk now?
Sure, just state your name for the record, and then you can fill that out.
Dan Bongino, Bongano. Thanks for having me. So I have 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
So good to see you all. You do a lot of great work here. I appreciate it. I spoke at the Martin County GOP thing on Friday night. I heard some people objected to my speech where I brought up the potential tax hike. I mean, that's fine, but I live here. I own 2 homes here. And again, I'm a member of some of your churches, and you're all affable folks. I've met most of you. I like most of you personally, but this is business for me. I live in this county. I do business in the county, and I love it. Matter of fact, we just bought a 3rd property over on Hutchinson Island. Not that we need to go through an autobiography, but I'm committed. I have skin in the game, and we pay a lot of money in taxes here. And yeah, you know what? This millage rate, is it going to affect us? Is it going to bankrupt me? No, of course not. It's not. But we elected you all as Republicans. And the whole idea about being a Republican is we're here for some fiscal sanity. And having come from 2 blue states, I know I'm going to be running out of time shortly, but this is how it starts. A hike here, a hike there. We don't need that. We can find other ways. You see the property values are going up. I saw in the beginning $25 billion in taxable property. I think the only fair thing to do is to find and look for some cuts elsewhere. I know there's small cuts, and listen, I know I'm just one voice in the county. That other stuff I do for my job is irrelevant. I'm just one resident. But I know a lot of people feel the same way. And I feel like with federal taxes, that's not your problem, the federal taxes. I get that. But it talks about corporate taxes going up, capital gains, my income taxes. I live over in Sewells. I have to go to that meeting after this where they're talking about the millage hike. This stuff adds up. And sadly, that's all money that comes out of my pocket to go to you, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Police, fire, we get that. But the additional millage comes out of my pocket and doesn't go into the local community. We spend a lot of money here. Money's fungible. I can only spend it in one spot at once. So with respect, and I mean that, I know you have a tough job, but I came down here and you run the county great. I only objected to 2 things, the mask mandate, and many of you were kind enough to reach out, which I appreciate. And this, I really think if it were up to me, which it's not, you guys got elected and did your thing, please hold the millage rate straight. It's the right thing to do. We've got a great county. We don't need to hike taxes. I'm afraid if they go up, they're never going to come down. I know my speech may have been a little rough, but those Republicans got you guys elected, and they got you elected on Republican principles, some fiscal sanity in the county. So I'm probably out of time, but I appreciate the time and opportunity, and thanks to all of you for doing a really good job. The county's great. You got a great sheriff. You got great people, all good elected folks. I love living here. Is that my buzzer? But thanks for the time. I appreciate it. I give this to you afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to make public comment? Okay. With that, it comes back to the board for discussion. Questions? Commissioner Camping.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Since the last time we had a budget conversation, I think each of us has had an opportunity to sit with Ms. Krista and our senior staff and our financial staff to discuss some of the realities of what's in the budget, what's out of the budget, what's within our control. And I know that there are some concerns beyond just what we just heard from a member of the public. We would need a supermajority for some of this and a regular majority for some of the rest of it. I'm not opposed to striking out some things today to even it up a little bit and look for a couple of opportunities. I think when we approved the tentative budget, we discussed that we were going to work with staff to look and see where we had some opportunities for cuts that wouldn't necessarily jeopardize grant opportunities, which I'm not really a fan of doing if we have the ability to put $1 in to make $2 or $3 from state or federal funds, especially nowadays it seems to be a a lot of money available, but a lot of it has matches and other financial responsibilities. Those are areas, at least from my perspective, I'm not interested in jeopardizing. Some of the other areas that we've looked at have some strings attached as well. Park impact fees from one area doesn't really lower the budget or change millage rates, and it also is restrictive in terms of where it can and cannot go. I think now that the five of us, since we're not able to have these conversations upstairs in a workshop, obviously, some people that are newer to the community still don't completely comprehend the sunshine rules that we are under. We are not allowed to meet either 2, 3, 4, 5 at a time. We're also not allowed to ask our staff, well, what do my colleagues think? So with that in mind, the only time that we can really get into the nitty-gritty of the budget to discuss almost line by line where we might see some suggestions. I had a conversation a couple recently with Ms. Krista, and I think the staff has done a remarkable job. Ms. Manning, your team and yourself, you've done exactly what we've asked you to, is to present a budget that you feel is appropriate, having met with each of the department heads who have met with their people to figure out what's the right budget for us. That being said, I still believe that we could probably redline a couple of these things, sharpen our pencil. And so I had asked Ms. Krista for a couple of suggestions, not having any understanding of how the budget might be voted on. There's obviously a possibility that it would not pass. The supermajority vote makes it a higher bar to climb. So would you want to share some of your suggestions that we've discussed? Do you want me to bring them up? How would
Well,
Can you first explain, Ms. Krista, why the supermajority to the general public?
Yes.
Why is the supermajority
So-
even required for the budget?
back in 2007 and 8, when the legislature decided that they were going to mandate ad valorem reductions to counties based on how their millages had increased over time and how much ad valorem they had collected, we went through mandated reductions. We had to reduce over 6% one year and close to that the next year, which equated to roughly 30 million. And at the same time, the legislature then put in statute, that these are going to be, they came up with a formula to develop a maximum millage rate. And so in the legislation, they said, okay, this is going to be your maximum millage rate, and they layer in what your rollback rate was from the prior year, what your tax base increase is, and they come up with this number that they, Ms. Murley over there, you have to, so it's a separate form that you have to fill out to designate what that maximum millage rate is. And your millage for the general fund particularly and the unincorporated MSTU exceed so they give you two numbers. One is what the millage could go up to for just a regular simple majority. And then they give you that next millage that becomes your maximum millage rate that you would need a supermajority vote. We're not near the top of that maximum millage. I mean, we're just
See, we're right
a tad. Yeah, I mean, but what we don't show is what the minimum is.
The minimum is like, yeah, it's very small.
Yeah, so because of the dynamic that the legislature has created, they've put this restriction on the board that you would need this supermajority, which the general fund, part of the increase in the general fund is the sheriff's budget. I mean, we all know that he came in with a almost $5 million request for additional funding, and some of the other elements of that budget. And so because of that, it put us in a position where we were above what that normal millage could be. So we're in this position. We'd have to cut $3 million out of this budget in order not to need this supermajority. We could do a simple majority. And so, but in order to have no tax increase at all, you'd be looking at a much larger number, about 3 times that.
Give me a ballpark, please.
Do you have that number in your head?
To get to the.
If no tax increase at all? Isn't it 11
The
point?
legislature put that in place to protect the residents so that if there was a significant millage increase, then there was some protections in place.
Yes, that's
So,
true.
I think that, it's really the way we came about this, and in order to chair this meeting, the tentative budget meeting, I went back and viewed all the tapes because procedurally, I wasn't sure how we were going to run the meeting. And I watched our 2020 budget hearing, and that's part of what made me vote against that tentative budget, because we were uncertain. There were uncertain times. We were COVID, and we were discussing the potential that property values were going to go way down. We thought that COVID was going to have a very drastic impact on property values, and it didn't. They actually went up, and we continue. We've gotten several millions of dollars in CARES and ARPA money, and we should be able to live within that means. If that means deferring a few projects, still getting them done. They're all priorities. The first day I went to Florida Association of Counties and met my new commission colleagues, and we did training. They put us all on a table, and they all said, outline your priorities. So we outlined our priorities, and here's your money. And there was, of course, never enough money to fund the priorities. So I think that we can have everything we want in Martin County if we just plan a little bit more efficiently and know that it might take a year or two to get a project done. I've been here 3 or 4 generations, and I don't plan on leaving, and it's not fair to tax, those have been here for generations out of our homes. We've got people on budgets. We've got people in the real estate market is booming, and people are moving here because they want to get away from this tax and spend mentality. So I think our staff has done great. We've planned. If we could just look at this and maybe sharpen the pencils a little bit more, we can all have what the residents want and what they expect, the level of service, and within our budget means.
I wasn't done.
Well,
I was waiting for
Let-
Ms. Manning to just
I'm
tell
sure
us what the
Commissioner Jenkins is
just
going to be.
if she's going to give us the number on what.
Commissioner Campy, I'm going to let Commissioner
No,
Jenkins, because
I'm just
Commissioner
saying,
Campy,
I just want Jennifer to tell us how much money do we need to save?
Commissioner Jenkins.
Okay, well, I appreciate everything you said, and it makes perfect sense. I know you were uncomfortable with the budget when we voted on it the first time. Do you have specific recommendations on where we can go? Because I'll go with you. I'm completely, we've worked on CIPs and everything for a whole year to get us to this point. And again, when we first did the first CIP a year ago, we don't know where we're going to end up at the end. So if you've got some specific ideas on where you want to be to where you can support this budget, I'm behind you 100%.
Well, number one, I think we have to have, like the presentations this morning, I think it was the economic development, we have to have a fiscal, a number attached to everything when we consider it from now on. There is an item in the staff presentations, we have to consider it in, I think, a larger picture. Because right now, I'm not prepared to go through and strip out one project versus the other, because that's what the staff does when they present the budget, and then we do the CIP. So, but I am prepared to say we might have to defer some of these projects. We might for a year or two. So if we want to have that discussion, then we can have that discussion on how to prioritize it now. Commissioner Camping.
I was just waiting for Ms. Manning to tell us what amount of money do we need
0.
to get a zero increase budget.
Okay, it'll
Louder,
approximately,
please.
it'll be approximately 5 million in the general, in the
So
general.
that would be a zero millage increase,
Millage increase, yes. We would just absorb.
$5 million. I heard what my chair has just mentioned, but today is the day that we're actually supposed to go through the budget and make decisions. The staff has done what we have asked. Staff has done what we've asked them to do, which is present the budget that they feel is appropriate. Through all of their iterations with staff they have, it has a 1.6% millage increase. They, during the presentation, laid out the things that we do not have control over. We don't have the constitutionals sitting in the room today because we basically try, even though we approve their budgets. I'm not going to, supersede the sheriff and his team's law enforcement background, experience, and expertise on what he believes his budget should be for my personal private sector opinion of what his budget should be. Now, I know there are other commissioners in the state of Florida that do that, and their relationship between the constitutionals and their BOCC is terrible. We have personally normally allowed our constitutionals to come forward with their budgets and basically accepted them at face value. The only time we've ever really pushed back was during the 2008, 9, 10 recessions, where we might have instructed Ms. Krista or her predecessor to go to the constitutionals and say, we're all 4%, 5%, 8% down. We need you to deliver a budget that had the same thing. We were hemorrhaging at the time. So the constitutionals are not here, so that's off the table. And obviously, the gallery is filled with the heads of each of our departments. So in the old days, back when I was here originally, Commissioner Smith and Hurd will remember, this meeting used to last till 10 or 11 o'clock at night because we went through item by item and discussed them and hashed them out. So I'm prepared to do that tonight. We start at 5 o'clock for a reason, and so that people either could come here if they wanted to after work or can watch. This is televised. So if the number is $5 million, I got a couple of sharp pencils with me. I got a couple of suggestions in my head. $5 million is actually, I think, a relatively doable number. I thought you were going to say 9 million, and I can shave 9 million out of this budget tonight too. Because I do believe, and Commissioner Hurd and I in the past have disagreed on philosophical reasons of how this budget should happen. And one year I voted with her not to approve the budget at 9 o'clock at night, and it failed. And I said to Commissioner Hurd, and Commissioner Smith was here at the time, I said, fine, let's have your suggestions. If you're unhappy with the budget, let's hear what the suggestions are. We're not allowed to hear them any other time except for tonight. So I agree with Commissioner Jenkins, leading with our chair. If you have suggestions, because you did vote no on the budget, when was that meeting? July 19th. July 19th. So July 19th, August 19th, September 19th, we've had a couple of months to hash out some options. I have some. There's certain things I believe here's my approach, if you don't mind. We should start with $1 million items, $1 million plus items, then work to $500,000 items, $250,000 items, because if we start in the 50,000s, we're just going to be here all night pecking away at things. So I would start with the big ticket items. And then there are certain things that the public has prioritized, and we're all familiar with what they are. Public safety, as far as I'm concerned, is first and foremost. Now, I already mentioned the sheriff. The fire chief and his financial advising team is here. They are reasons that those numbers go up. I personally think that the public is not interested in us starting to, put the fire rescue budget on a diet. Then we have stormwater, which if you live high and dry, you could care less about stormwater. But if you live low and wet, stormwater is a huge responsibility that our citizens think the county should be involved in, especially out in Palm City Farms, where we've spent millions of dollars recently trying to protect people to keep their homes. Hobe Sound, we've spent millions of dollars in Hobe Sound. We've all been down there where the water is up to their kitchen countertops. So that, I think, is a huge responsibility of ours. The next is infrastructure, which falls into a lot of categories. Some of that is pipes under the roads, some of it's roads and resurfacing, sidewalks for safety. The next, which is a big marquee that we pushed from 20 years to 10 years, and we all thought that was a great strategy, because you can't tell a resident, hey, we're going to take you from septic to sewer 15 years from now. No one wants to hear that. They want to hear that the government is acting. They have a patience level. It's about 2 to 3 years. And some of our constituents are already at the end of their patience. In Palm City, Old Palm City, in the numbered streets, we've been waiting. Those folks have been waiting for years, having flooded homes as the county says, well, we're going to get there. We shaved it from 20 to 10, but our staff will tell you that's millions of dollars to do that. And then we take those millions and go to Tallahassee, or now, what did we hear this morning? They're applying for an $8 million grant. How much do we have to put in to get the $8 million grant? $4 million?
Which depends on the grant.
But normally it's a match, right?
Yeah, it's 50, usually it's 50-50. Whatever we're putting in, they'll match. And we're
Okay,
putting in
hey,
$4
look,
million.
That's not a bad investment for Martin County taxpayers. If you chipped in $1, we're going to get $1 back from taxes that you paid in Washington. It's not additional. We're going to get $1 back. So septic to sewer's got to stay on there. Parks, I think, is big, and a lot of our residents love it. And for many, that's the only interaction they have with their county government is libraries and parks. Because remember, the school has nothing to do with our budget. But I think, sadly, that some of the strategies of parks can be removed simply because it's not a matter of life and death in parks. So I would start to, and I don't see anybody from parks here.
Well, I've been hoping that Mr. Abate is watching from his office since he's right around the corner. I'm surprised he hasn't showed up yet.
I mean, if we're gonna get into the nitty gritty of these things, I think he should come in. Some of my suggestions involve parks.
Okay.
And so that's just my overview, and then when I want others to have an opportunity to weigh in, but I'm prepared to shave $5 million off the budget so that we can get some of my colleagues to vote along with the budget. I don't need to lift the budget up by myself or with 2 others.
Commissioner Hearn.
Yeah, I've certainly voted against budgets more often than I voted for budgets. So if you want to shave $5 million off of the budget, I'm perfectly willing to cooperate. But we need to do it on a project by project basis. We can't just say to Ms. Krista, here, shave $5 million off, and then she has to struggle with what she's going to shave off. We need to create winners and losers, or else it's just political posturing. You want to shave $5 million off, then tell me right now which projects are going to go by the wayside.
Okay. So, first of all, I agree with you, Commissioner Hurd and Commissioner Campy. I think that we could do that tonight, and we can get the $5 million. I don't know if I disagree that that the staff should not put together the budget. They put together the budget when they brought it to us. I'm prepared to make suggestions on all those categories to trim it. But however, I do think in principle, staff put together the budget, and staff, should be able to allocate these proportions. So, public safety. I agree with you, Commissioner Campy, 100%. There's a level of service that is expected by our residents. We deliver that level of service, and I don't think there's any room for change in public safety. Stormwater, I agree with you as well. If you're high and dry, then you're not concerned. We have a lot of work, we realized this past year, to do in stormwater. Septic to sewer is one of the board priorities, absolutely 100%. However, we just got 30 some odd million in ARPA funds, and we've allocated several, maybe 12 million to of that we're receiving over the next 2 years to septic to sewer. I think it's the board's high priority over 10 years. However, I don't believe that if we took some money over the next 12 months out of this budget in septic to sewer, I believe that ARPA money will fill in that void. And I don't know that we could even design and get these projects going quick enough. So I think there's room to take money out for this particular year in order to keep a flat millage rate in septic to sewer. And parks, I think that there are some very quality projects, but there's also room in order to keep this budget flat to pull some particular projects out of parks. Commissioner Hearn.
Okay, so which park projects are you gonna cut, and which septic to sewer projects are you gonna cut?
How about if we defer? Do we have a capital?
Okay, which one is it gonna be? Is it gonna be Port Salerno? Is it going to be Golden Gate? Are you gonna take the money out of Phipps
Well-
Park? I mean, we need to, if you're gonna cut funds, you said that won't have any impacts to public safety. Well, public safety's increases in this year alone are about $8 million. So, big numbers that which you refuse to touch. So if you want to get to $5 million, you're going to have to decimate some other departments. So if you're going to cut septic to sewer, tell me how much you're going to cut and tell me which projects you're going to defer. If you're going to cut park projects, tell me how much. What are you going to do? The golf course? Are you going to do Phipps Park?
Well, we know we
Are you
can't
gonna
do projects that
Layton
are
Park?
already underway. We've got the golf course underway, so we can't do those projects. Golden Gate's already under construction, so what's designed and if we want to start with septic to sewer in particular projects, Mr. Donaldson, what's designed and ready to go for septic to sewer, and what could we defer for a year?
Well, we'd simply go to our CIP, and the first projects on the list are in Old Palm City and other. We have a number of projects that we would look at that we would defer. So I mean, I can get the CIP out, and we can.
Okay.
You give
Get
us
the
a
CIP out.
category. I mean but we're going to look in next year's CIP essentially, or any projects that have not been awarded, is what we would give you the list of.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Mr. Donaldson, when you say next year's CIP, are those projects that are calculated to be dollars in this budget?
Yes.
Okay. The concept, in preparation of this meeting, I was thinking about how the political system works. The federal government is, when we send, our congressman, our local congressman, Brian Mass, when we send him to Washington, he represents everyone in the United States of America as a member of Congress, but he specifically represents his home district. And we are always very happy when he or Rick Scott or Marco Rubio, representing the full state of Florida, are able to bring dollars back from Washington to their home districts. We congratulate them, and we all feel like we have benefited from their efforts. That's part of his job, is to bring back finances or projects from the federal government to Florida, or specifically to Martin County. Our state representatives, Gail Harold, Toby Oberdorf, and John Snyder, are also tasked to do the same thing. We compliment them and congratulate them on being able to bring dollars home from Tallahassee for projects here. Now, we basically stop there. However, I'm willing to also say that I represent the entire county, but I'm also the District 5 commissioner. So I'm not interested in taking the Old Palm City septic to sewer project out of the budget. I would have to fight for my constituents that live in those homes that have been waiting for years and now are right on the cusp of having that project started and completed. I don't personally think that that's one of the projects that I would take out to save $5 million off the budget. So, I mean, if there are other projects in other districts and commissioners don't feel as strongly about that particular issue that I do, because I'm next. When I say me, I mean my constituents that have been waiting for 5 years. So I'm not interested in pulling the carpet out from underneath them. There are other things within the district that I would look at, but it's not that. So I'm not interested in taking the only example that he gave from septic to sewer, which is Old Palm City.
Do you have other suggestions?
I do.
Okay.
But we're going to look at, he's going to pull up the CIP sheet so we can look at these. Let's see where the dollars are there. That if there are dollars for another community that's purely in the early stages of design or consulting work, then we can put some of that aside. I think sadly, and I see him standing over there, a lot of this is going to fall into parks, because if you were to delay a park project, although it is not what we had asked him to do, we've asked everyone in the departments to move full steam ahead. I'm more interested in temporarily suspending, because I agree with your language. We're not cutting and killing these projects. We could be postponing these projects. I would rather postpone some park projects. I've toured Phipps Park. I think it's a beautiful park. It's at a point where it is very functional. It is very successful. I think we might have to hear from Mr. Abate what the next phases are. I know they're expensive phases. You could get a lion's share of the $5 million by eliminating or temporarily postponing one park project, Phipps. Can we hear from, if we're switching from septic to sewer, or do you want to stick with septic to sewer?
If I could just say that, obviously the challenge, and we can meet the challenge of working with you tonight, is that our tool is going after ad valorem taxes, and all of these projects have a mixture of funds in them. And so we're sort of taking a bat to carve up a steer for our meal. And so I don't expect it to be pretty in the end. It's just not going to be able to be. But on the other hand, we can offer up suggestions on how you get to $2 million or $5 million or whether you're looking for your less than supermajority or an actual zero millage increase. You're going to have to give us, that scope, which is, you've said $5 million if that's your goal. It's hard to take off the table that you're going to say, I can't do stormwater and I can't do septic to sewer, when in our capital program, the three biggest areas that you have ad valorem are parks, septic to sewer, and stormwater and coastal. Those are the four. Those are your four. That's, if you're taking money out, that's where it's at. Everything else is pretty small, buildings and scattered throughout it, and they all have grants or other things associated with them. So in the end of it, I can't promise that you're not going to eliminate or have to give back some grant because we've deferred it. But
Well, we can try to, I get your analogy of the baseball bat and the steer. I'm thinking we're going to use a knife. It might not be a super sharp knife, but I think we can do a knife. And maybe, maybe the first thing we should do, so we're not just dragging staff around, is let's as a board decide the priorities. Mr. Donaldson said it was stormwater, septic to sewer, and parks and coastal. Are those them? Where do you want to begin? Board, I think, Mr. Abate, I apologize to you. I believe it's parks.
I would agree.
Mr. Abate.
Good afternoon. To start off the conversation with Phipps Park, for the FY22 budget, there are no funds designated for the park. It's only revenues being collected for the future years because the park was previously funded. A few weeks ago, the board moved funding in from ARPA dollars from county projects, so it is all interrelated.
Yeah, but excuse me, Kevin, those ARPA funds can be put somewhere else.
Correct.
And we can still, Phipps Park was bid out. There's three alternatives that equate to over $640,000 that were awarded that don't necessarily have to be awarded. The base bid itself was over $3 million. So I think we keep focusing on these ARPA funds, which were one-time monies that came in. We've utilized them and allocated them, and trying to balance your budget, in my opinion, with an ongoing expense or if you defer projects, I get it. We can do that if that's what the board wants to do. But at some point, you got to decide when you're going to allocate your ad valorem to get that project done. Same with septic to sewer. We put the $2 million of ad valorem toward that program along with some franchise fees. Those franchise fees could be reallocated back into the road program, and we could reduce ad valorem in roads. There's a lot of different ways that we can approach this, but I'm concerned about these ARPA funds and how they're trying to be utilized.
Well, Madam Chair,
Mr.
I just
Stokas.
wanted to kind of back up Administrator Krista. What actually happened is you took ARPA funds and you placed them into 5 projects that qualify under ARPA. And then you took that ad valorem general fund and put it into FIPS. FIPS doesn't qualify as in my humble opinion, it doesn't qualify as an ARPA project. And it would come under quite a bit of scrutiny. Whereas the 5 projects that you did approve for ARPA funds do qualify under capital infrastructure under ARPA. So there is ad valorem in FIPS.
Commissioner Camping.
Mr. Stokas, there was talk earlier about using ARPA funds, and I agree with Ms. Krista that if you get a one-time, or this is over 2 years, a two-time, very specific, finite amount of money that doesn't have a life expectancy beyond 2 years, we can use it as a small stopgap. But if it cannot be, you can't use ARPA fund. I'm asking a question. Can you use ARPA funds as dollars that somewhere else those dollars were meant to be matching dollars for a grant? Can you take grant dollars from Washington and use them as our match for a grant from Tallahassee? I would assume, based on the restrictions, no.
It's a case-by-case effort. However, the majority or the preponderance of the grants that you're applying for, no. You have to show either an ad valorem match. So I'll use an example. Some of, not to get too far into the weeds, but a lot of those grants that we talked about earlier today, we're actually using economic trust fund dollars that are in an account as our match to go after those ARPA. But there are some, it's a very minuscule amount of grants that do allow you to take your ARPA and match them to a federal or state ARPA. But those, it would take me hours tonight just to try and figure out which ones those would be, and I don't know if I'd be successful.
And I think we should take the ARPA for the reasons that's already been mentioned and take that potentially off the table, because it doesn't count in the long run. If we're looking to if the only way we can keep a flat millage is from ad valorem dollars, the only thing we should be looking at is ad valorem dollars. Now, we can get creative. For instance, if at Phipps Park some of the money was park infrastructure dollars that were being used at Phipps Park, and at another park project like the golf course, you're using ad valorem dollars to continue to move the golf course project forward, we could take impact dollars, the specific park impact dollars from Phipps, and then move the golf course project to its completion. Because what yard line are you on? How close to a finish line are you?
Oh, the golf course itself is done. We're waiting on, now the clubhouse is 50% and the parking lot is 95%.
Right.
But the
so-
additional ad valorem was to complete the blue and gold. It was
Correct. Well, exotic removals for, correct.
Okay, so I agree that in that particular project, I've been out there with you. I personally, and look, there's 5 of us, but since I'm speaking, I don't disagree that that project should go forward. So what I might do is take, how much is that project, $500,000?
Yeah, for the complete removal of all exotics.
Okay, so now, if we really have to get into tough times here, those exotics could stay there. But if we're trying to complete the full scope of your project, which I think is important that we do, that $500,000 is from where?
It's ad valorem.
Okay, so what I would do as a suggestion, I don't know if someone's taken notes on where we can tally this up at the end, I would put those $500,000 back on the ledger sheet. I would take $500,000 from impact fees from Phipps Park, transfer them over to your golf course park, and pay for that project there. Now we just put $500,000 towards our 5 back on the sheet. Okay? What else is happening at Phipps Park that's paid with either ad valorem dollars? Did I hear $650,000?
roughly, those are the 3 alternatives.
Can you explain to us, do we have the ability to put these things up on the board, or can you just give us a verbal on what that $650,000 equates to?
Well, when we bid out Phipps Park, we had a base bid, which was, electric, infrastructure, sewer, and then we had some alternatives. So we had whether we want to have all the concrete pads, all the sites to go to concrete. That was an additional 600,000. That was really the majority of it. So you can obviously cut that out as an alternate. You don't have to do that part of the project and still get the project done and still make money. But ideally, if we had the money, it would be nice to have those
Understood.
sites be paved.
Ideally and nice are not going to be two words we're going to get to use tonight. Concrete pads, I say we take the $600,000 from ad valorem for concrete pads. What are they currently?
This hard pack
And how long have they been hard pack pads?
forever.
And how's your
Well, we're having new sites developed, so it would be the
Correct.
same.
how has the site rental been out there in the past?
It's highly booked.
No one's saying, "Oh my God, I need to have concrete pads."
That's correct. It's just it's something that we could cut.
I'd put 600,000 back on the ledger sheet. Now we're at 1.1 million. What else are you doing at Phipps?
No, you're not. You took 500 from Phipps and put it into the golf course.
No.
500 from the golf course.
Yeah, I took 500 from the golf course.
I thought you took 500 from Phipps and put it in the golf course.
No, we took $500,000 worth of ad valorem money from the exotic removal at the golf course, put it back on the ledger page, paid for that project because I feel it should be finished, took $500,000 of park impact fees, which are very specific. We can't put them somewhere else. Bring them over to the golf course. So that's 500 plus now ad valorem from the golf course. It was still paid for from Phipps park impact fees. Then we took $600,000 of ad valorem money that were the concrete pads at Phipps. So now we're at 1.1 million. Were there any other add-ons above the base bid?
No.
Okay. What else is happening at? Did you want to say something, Mr.
Well,
Stokas?
Commissioner, we do have a $500,000 shoreline grant there that we could return, and that would allow more of our money to go back to the match.
So
Well,
you're going to decimate Phipps.
no, I don't want to necessarily.
Seeing 500,000 in impact fees going, $500,000 in the pads, and how much more in?
There's a $500,000 grant, and I'm not sure what is our match on that.
So we're just going to decimate
250.
Phipps Park.
If I'm doing the
not
closed,
voting for it.
if I'm doing the closed captioning, we're starting to talk over each other. We're not decimating Phipps. We just spoke to the head of parks. $600,000. Let me finish, please, uninterrupted or whispered over. $600,000 were for concrete pads under the RVs that he has full bookings on a hard pack pad. The parks director just said it's not a death sentence for Phipps. It's taking it from something that he's booked since history, as you said, to go to a concrete pad. That doesn't decimate Phipps. We're here to make the tough decisions as far as I'm concerned. That's not a tough decision. It's a concrete pad under an RV in a park. It's not paving a road or stopping someone from getting their sewer or septic. And we're also finishing his biggest marquee project, the golf course. If we had yanked and stopped him on the 4-yard line at the golf course, that's a problem. In terms of Mr. Stokas' suggestion of taking coastal grants away, I don't want to mess with grants. If the federal government or the state government or some other government agency gave us money, we don't want to give that back for 2 reasons. One, you don't want to lose the money that we got originally. And 2, if I'm a grant issuing agency and I went through the whole process and gave Martin County money, and then late in the game after their whole bidding out process is over, I get the money back, I would be annoyed. And the next time Martin County came to me and said, hey, we'd like to have some other grants, I'd be like, no, the last grant we gave you, you held on to for a year and then gave it back to us after our process was over. I'm not interested in killing grants.
Can I just stop for a second? 1 second. The board's lighting up. So I agree. Could we do something like rock pads? That's why this is difficult to do up here.
Yeah, so the surface, we had it as an ad alternate if we had the funding.
You don't.
So, and the funding, and that's why we did that. The surface is very impenetrable. So it's.
And then, do you want to go over, since you're in the hot seat right now, the other on Miss Manning's slides?
Well, if I could interject just quickly. So Sarah and I have been talking about it. The park impact fees, we don't believe, since it's just exotic removal, unless you're increasing capacity at the golf course, that you could utilize that. Is that all you're doing with that 500,000?
That was the intent of it. I guess we'd have to consider whether or not we could shift what's.
Because I thought you were improving.
No, we're increasing the capacity of the clubhouse, of course, but that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but for this one,
So-
it's for the exotics.
So on the slide, Commissioner, to your point, Hetherington, Charlie Layton and Citrus Grove, you are increasing capacity, so those could be utilized. Those park fees from FIPS could be utilized for them.
Is that Charlie Layton and Citrus Grove ad valorem dollars?
Yes.
Correct.
One was 600,000 and one was,
Okay. May I
600 and 700?
have more suggestions?
yeah, 1.3 million.
No, I'm saying you got other lights on. Do you want me to keep going, gentlemen? Do you want to intervene?
Keep going.
My question was exactly what we just talked about. I didn't know.
Okay,
how
so
you-
that works for me. You want to know why? Sorry?
my question was going to be, and I think it just got answered. I didn't believe that you could use impact fees for clearing exotics because you're not gaining capacity.
No, that is a suggestion. I wasn't even going there.
Okay, we're starting to not be able to hear what everybody's saying.
Okay.
So
I'm done.
that was it, Commissioner Smith.
Done
Commissioner,
too. I've now forgotten what I wanted.
In my light, yeah, you took it off.
Okay, so with that being said, and look, that's why we're here. This is a process. We've just been told that the park impact fees cannot be switched over from FIPS to the golf course if the golf course project is exotic removal. It doesn't increase capacity. It's just a maintenance project. So that being said, and I've seen the exotics, how long have those exotics been out there? Forever.
Yeah.
So if they had to stay forever plus a year, it wouldn't be the end of the world. And I'm not putting words in your mouth. If you think that that's a project that absolutely has to be done, please tell us.
It needs to be done. We started some of the dollars that we have in our current budget now, our fixed asset replacement budget for the golf course. So we've started some removal on the the gold course. So it's happening now, so we can be ready for the new season. It's definitely something we have to do. So
This year?
I mean, it would nice to be done before we open up for the new golf course in 2022, ideally.
nice.
Okay, but remember, use the two words we're not allowed to use, nice and ideal.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, on my sheet, maybe my colleagues don't want to put it there. I'm waiting a year on that.
And I'll just remind the board that I know that specific to exotic removals, that the board at that time made it a priority that needed to get done. So we are making it a priority. And just to,
Environmentally, it's the right thing to do, and I'm struggling with this right now.
Officially, I completely agree with you. I've driven in a golf cart out there with you and looked at it. However, what we've just heard, you guys all worked with Miss Krista and Miss Manning to put this budget together, and I know that you didn't layer things in here that you thought were just fluff. But we've been tasked by colleagues and the public, if you will, even though I think we probably would have been fine with the 1.6% increase. But I have no problem, as we said, rolling our sleeves up and doing this. I think the exotic removal can wait a year. So now we're up.
Pause for just a second, Commissioner Smith.
Can you hang on to that for a second?
Sure.
I'll weigh in on the golf course, where we have said we don't think it's a problem to make people wait for a year, maybe 2 years. The golf course has been waiting for 7 years. So if there was a constituency base that's going to get, I think Sarah says there's winners and losers. I am not willing to put the golf course into the losers category because they've been in the losers category for 7, almost maybe 10 years, quite frankly. So I'm just, if you're counting up who is supporting what and who's
No,
not
I hear
supporting
you.
what, I'm out on that one.
Let me give you my opinion to respond to Commissioner Smith. I 100% agree with what Commissioner Smith just said. How much in the last couple of years have you spent on the golf course? Well, let me back up so people understand the history that Commissioner Smith is mentioning. When we lost the majority, so what is that, 2012, they tore the clubhouse down. I believe in an effort to kill the golf course, but there was black mold or whatever. I think they could have brought it down to the cinder blocks, completely cleaned it, rehabilitated it, and rebuilt it exactly where it was. But that's not what happened, and that's not your fault. The previous majority tore it down and then basically hoped that the golfers would leave, but they didn't. They put a porta potty out there. You did the best you could. You worked out of the pro shop as much as possible, and you sort of just, robbed Peter to pay Paul to keep the golf course alive. And then you came forward, and remember, with the golf course clubhouse iterations, the Taj Mahal, then the half a Taj Mahal, and a quarter of a Taj Mahal, and we've come up with something that is great. Your driving range is excellent. It's done. The clubhouse is well under construction, millions of dollars. The parking lot, the lighting, the infrastructure, the cart barn, all done. I don't believe that the golfers, who are resilient because they've been out there for almost a decade without any facilities whatsoever and still showed up, I think if we polled them and said, are you comfortable with not having the exotic? It's not on the, my dad's a golf pro. It's not on the playing course itself. It's on the perimeter. It doesn't affect play, except if you hit the ball into the exotics, you're not getting it back. Just like if you hit it into the lake, you're not getting it back. I agree that's why I don't want to do anything to hurt the golf course. But in my opinion, and everyone can have a chance at this, $500,000 for infrastructure remover doesn't affect the golfers' play in the least. Clubhouse is built, driving range is done, parking's done, bathrooms are done, carts are done. That's golf.
I agree with you.
Not
on
not the exotics. And I don't want to lose Commissioner Smith's support. So if he's dead set on not voting on putting that $500,000 on the sheet, then I'll take a suggestion on another $500,000. I just figured I would work our way as close to this as possible because our chair said, and so did Commissioner Jenkins, let's hear the suggestions. I'm offering up suggestions. And I'm more than happy to hear other people's suggestions. But remember, got to start at the big money, or we'll be here till tomorrow if we're going to do this $50,000 at a time, just with exotic removal from the golf course, $500,000. Not concrete pads at Phipps, $600,000. And what was one other thing that had a... Yeah, because we couldn't take the impact fees. What were the $500,000 impact fees at Phipps? What were you going to use those for?
We didn't have any, those were previously approved impact fees, not for this year's budget,
Okay, but they were sitting there on reserve.
over many, many years.
Understood. And we didn't take them from parks. We're still speaking exclusively about parks. So it's not like we took your money. Well, I guess some of it we did take. We put it back on the legislature. Never mind.
Could you,
So we're at $1.6 million on 3 items that I don't think most people are going to have heartburn over. That's my opinion. I can keep going.
I agree, but Mr. Abate, the 2.15 million, could you explain, we just talked about the golf course, what some of those other items that add up to the 2.15?
Well, you mentioned Charlie Layton Park, which is ad valorem. That's at 700,000.
Okay, I want to be fair because my colleague said it's easy for me to take money from other districts and put it in mine. Charlie Layton is in District 5. You and I have been working on that for a long time. I can't be a hypocrite. Tell us what the dollar amounts for Charlie Layton are.
Well, the project itself is 1.4 million.
But can you break-
700,000 for FY22 is ad valorem allocated
For what?
for the park development and improvements.
I understand, but can you break it out to be itemized so we can see if, just like we knew that 600,000 were for pads at Phipps?
Well, the park is, the final site plan and the final plan for the park is approaching 100% design. We haven't done a cost, our estimate is about 1.2, 1.4 million. And that includes the park redevelopment, new paving and parking. So we haven't line item it. And there's, obviously you can look at the pavilions, the paving, the sewer, the restroom, and all those different items. But we haven't awarded any bids. It hasn't been put out the bid. This is
Okay.
merely building funding over many budget cycles.
Understood. The 700,000 is not going to accomplish all those things that you just mentioned. It won't even build the bathrooms, correct?
The 700,000 is about half the cost to do the park.
Okay, and so you said you're nearly at 100%, and I know these answers, but I want everyone to hear them. You're nearly at 100% design on that, correct?
Correct.
That's my project. That's one of my babies. I'd be willing to put the 700,000 aside for a year. Because remember, we're not talking about killing these projects. We're talking about postponing these projects. I'd be willing to take 700,000. But the Citrus Grove project, if we're going to be completely transparent, that's creating capacity because we're talking about soccer fields and we are at a loss of, we're low on soccer fields. We have leagues that are coming. There is a constituency base for that. So I'd be willing to put the 700,000 of ad valorem dollars from the 2022 budget for Charlie Layton in District 5 back on the sheet. Now we're at 2.1 million. I would hope that my colleagues will find some money in their districts to chip in. Whose district is Phipps? Okay, so I think Sarah's given it the office. Let's hear from our three other colleagues. Where's the golf course? That's in yours, Commissioner Heatherington?
Golf course is in mine. I would remove I would take the exotic removals off the table for this year. Anybody else have suggestions?
I'm trying to think of anything I've got in my, all I've got is roads and neighborhood restoration. I got Hope Heights.
Well, Hope
I've been
Heights-
funding my playgrounds out of my district funds, so
Yeah, and Hope Heights, I'm looking.
we're not going there. Don't even go there.
No, I know, but we did get the grant, and so we're still in the process of figuring out what these contracts are going to look like. So I'd be hesitant to impact that project at this time.
Absolutely not, no.
So
Where are we
So
now?
Jennifer, you need to pull up your spreadsheet. We're at 2.3 million and tell us.
2.1.
District 3 is pretty fiscally responsible, so I don't got nothing for you.
Yeah, right.
Are we
Well,
going for
that,
a
I just wanted to
majority
be
vote, or-
respectful of you and let you have the first crack at it. Now we'll take a shot at District 3.
Go for it.
What parks are you working on in District 3?
Well, we really,
Boat ramps.
yeah, so that's the big one. And we have, we're in receipt of, we're approaching our final permits for boat ramps at Sandspread and starting at Stewart Beach and Layton Park. FBIP grants, but in boat ramps for this year, I think it's 800,000.
No, but those are, what do you have in District 3? You don't have any boat ramps in District 3, do you?
Yeah, I do. I got one.
Yeah, but that's in the out years.
And it's in good
How
shape.
about the beach? What are you doing at the beach?
No, there's nothing at the beaches.
Pretty
Not
tight
in
down there.
Here we are.
Yeah, there's really nothing in 3. That
How about Western 3?
at Phipps. I mean Tomer Powers.
It used to be mine.
Yeah,
And somehow,
there's nothing there.
are you covering for him?
No. So the big ones that you talk about are the parks, boat ramps. There's some money in paving that's tied to the boat ramp project at Sandspread for 300,000. Equipment replacement, but in terms of projects, it's really the ones
appreciate
we've
that.
talked about. The golf course.
How about District?
Indian Riverside Park, we have one project that we're working on. That's a parking lot match grant with the U.S. Sailing Center for 325,000.
And that's basically done, right?
The design is approaching probably 100%, and then the goal was to build it to increase capacity over at the park.
But at the grant, if you took the 350,000, that's ad valorem dollars,
I think it's 325.
and you would lose how much then?
The grant matches 325.
And that's a grant that will finish that project in 2022?
Yes.
I personally wouldn't take that off the table. What else do you have? He's got more than one park in District 1.
Yes, you pretty much hit the big
I
park
guess
projects.
we should, I apologize.
Thankfully, we get donated a lot of money in District 1 to build things, so.
We're talking about you like you're not here. Just like we asked Commissioner Jenkins, do you have any suggestions for us, Commissioner Smith? We all have to put up at least $500,000.
No, I don't. My suggestion is, you don't want to hear it, it's fine.
I do want to hear
No,
it.
you don't.
Everyone wants to hear
I
it.
do want to hear your suggestion.
You're 1/5 of the equation.
It's not, I'm trying to think of the right word. So we spend a better part of a year developing this, and we spend an inordinate amount, well, not an inordinate amount of time, we spend a fair amount of time on our CIP. We task staff to come with us with a budget or a proposal. We agree to that proposal. 5 months after we agree to that proposal, because we do that back in April, right, we do CIP? Now we're carving it up, and what would have been fair to staff, and so, I mean, what's not fair to staff to some respect, is that we should have told them this back in January of 2020 and said, come forth with a non-increased budget, so that we wouldn't even be trying to figure out on the last hour, how do you carve up a budget that they have, Taryn has, proposed to us, that we approved and moved to this point.
Did anybody give staff direction to come back with an increase? I didn't say, don't come back with a flat budget. I agree with you. We could have planned it out better.
That's just the trouble with this process is that kind of direction needs to be made up front, so everybody's really clear. So we're not trying to think what grants are in jeopardy, what ARPA money is, not eligible or eligible, what impact fees are eligible. For the sake of going through this exercise, fine. I'll sit here as long as y'all want to sit here.
I agree. It should have been, but it wasn't. Sorry. Go ahead.
I don't agree with this process. If we had a month to tell staff, look, your goal is go back, cut $5.5 million out of this budget, and come back with recommendations on how to do that, fair enough. Kind of picking at parks or picking at any department, you're on the seat, so that's what you get to be picked at this point. I just don't agree with the methodology of how we're doing it, that's all.
May I respond?
Yes.
One second, please. If I'm not mistaken, what Commissioner Hetherington said, I agree with. When we gave, and actually Commissioner Hetherington voted no, and Commissioner Hurd voted no on the overall tentative budget. The three of us, including myself, voted yes to move the process along. We did not know at the time what our yeses meant in terms of a 1.6% increase to the ad valorem. I haven't voted for budget increases in the past. I think staff has done a remarkable job. That's why when the suggestion was made that we just give this back to staff to do it again, I'm not interested in that because it's our turn. And then in terms of this being the 11th hour, if you will, this is the hearing. Today was on the calendar for a year that we would have a tentative in July, and then in the middle of September, we would hash it out. If the budget were to come forward on a silver platter for us to look at and take out our rubber stamps and write, yes, we approve, I have done that in the past. Sometimes reluctantly because I wanted to support the staff and our community, and I was the third vote. Had I voted no, the budget fails. So I don't mind doing that.
The difference is, Ed, we would have worked it out back then. If it had failed, Taryn would have had the responsibility to go back and figure out at that time what would be those changes to the budget that we would make.
Correct.
However,
I mean,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
If we want to approach this moving forward in this fashion, which is fine, I would suggest that, next meeting or after we adopt whatever budget we're going to adopt, we give administration the direction of what you want to achieve now. Because one thing I would suggest relative to where our largest increases are and how those increases are allocated, if we have the overall increase to our property value was what, 4%?
5.
5%?
A little over 5%. A little over 5%, yeah.
A long time ago, we had a conversation about, as a starting point, and how we allocate those funds to our constitutionals and to ourselves. In our ad valorem side of this, my theory is we would, at least as a starting point, look at our 5% on our side of the equation. The constitutionals get the direction from the five of us to look at their 5%. Because that budget you have in front of you would look entirely different today if that's what it were. But again, we didn't ask them to do that. We didn't tell them to do that. But if the goal is to stay under the cap, stay under, or even maybe attempt to go back to rollback, I think you need to start off at a very different place for administration's purposes to give them guidance as to how to try to get where you want to get to. That's why I said you don't really want to hear this now at this point, but that's a very different budget. In my mind, it's a very different budget strategy than us telling the constitutionals and ourselves, Taryn, put a budget together, bring it to us, and starting to us in April with CIP, getting a tentative approval for CIP in April, and then moving into the budget process in July and today. That's just for me.
Commissioner Smith, I agree with you. And as Commissioner Canby points out so often, we don't get to speak to each other about what we feel about what's in the budget. For weeks, I've been consistently telling the county administrator that I'm not supportive of this budget. So
But the board didn't collectively tell her that
Correct.
as a direction. You may have. That's fine. You're one of five, and then and we do get to talk at these meetings and at our commission meetings about what our strategies are. You having a difference of opinion with how you want to get, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But a majority gave direction to get us to where we are today. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's just that's where we are.
I disagree with that,
Okay.
and I was in that majority.
Then have
Mr.
at it. Do
Canby.
your thing.
Thank you. Just a couple of points for clarification. Ms. Krista, when did you realize with the budget process with Ms. Manning and the team that you were going to have to come forward with the 1.6% millage increase? Approximately when?
Well, your first part of this is the CIP, which we pointed out we were very matter of fact about you were putting $3 million more into that CIP for park projects that you wanted to move up. So, and then from there, we reach out to the departments and they prepare their budgets and they get them to us by, middle of April? And then we put those budgets together and then we meet with each of the departments to go over their increases. We don't get the sheriff's increase or his request until he's supposed to get it June 1st, but we
Get it until July.
got it in July.
So my question is, when did you understand that we were going to have a 1.6% increase? Approximately what date?
July 1st, probably, or,
Did you have the housing values from,
yeah, that's when we got the housing.
okay, and that's when we realized we came in at a little over 5%. So at that point, you said, we look like we got a 1.6% increase in ad valorem.
Yes.
And then you came forward a couple of weeks,
Then we had our budget workshops.
and we discussed that there would be a 1.6% increase at the budget workshop.
Yes, sir.
And it passed 3-0, but I do remember Commissioner Hetherington say that she wanted to vote no, and that she was going to work with staff to discuss how she could sharpen her pencils, which is what, if she's voting no, she's not just throwing a no out for no reason. She didn't like the version that was brought forward, and I did. And so with that in mind, when we are that close, and I agree, we put $3 million, and I was pushing park projects, because like I said earlier, federal government, state government, local government, we're supposed to be advocating for projects, either county-wide or district-wide. But we're faced with a different set of circumstances. One, you and I have been talking for probably 2 weeks about this, that we would need a supermajority. And you obviously never told me how my colleagues would vote, but I'm up here with them for years. And I told you that I don't believe you would have gotten a supermajority, and I told you to start preparing a doomsday budget because I didn't believe. I mean, that's a bet that I would not be willing to take on you achieving a supermajority. That you would have swayed one of the two negative votes from the tentative budget, who, as Commissioner Hurd said herself, has voted no on lots of budgets, and Commissioner Hetherington made herself perfectly clear that she didn't support it. So short of us bringing Commissioner Hetherington into the yes column, we would have had to do something like we're doing now, which we're doing it now because today is the day that we're supposed to be doing it. It's on the calendar for today. We're not finalizing the budget. Today is sort of our working workshop. We're actually going to finalize the budget on the 24th or the 28th. What's the date of the next meeting?
28th.
The 28th. That's when we should not be asking us. And I then realized after I had said to Ms. Krista, come up with a doomsday budget that would get us to either a 3 or a pass. Then I thought, it's not your responsibility anymore. You've already brought the budget forward. You did exactly what you just explained in April in the CIP sheets. It's our responsibility now. This is the day that we're allowed to speak to each other. This is the time that's been set aside for us to go and make these hard decisions. I don't want to kill or postpone the Charlie Layton Park. I've been talking to my residents about the Charlie Layton Park and working with Mr. Abate for a long time on the Charlie Layton Park. But I would be a fool if I sat up here and expected Commissioner Hurd to take it, Commissioner Heathering to take it. I haven't heard from my other colleagues yet. I have to participate. So I'll bite the bullet on 700,000, and I think we've done enough in parks. We also have infrastructure in roads that has ad valorem in it, right?
Yes, sir.
And we have coastal. Didn't someone make a suggestion that there's something in coastal?
No.
It's a resilient program.
The resiliency, that was 300 and but they've already, but we needed that
And
resiliency
I'm
program.
not saying that I want to do that, but we have to start hearing what they are. None of us understood the concrete pads at Phipps Park until we hear it. So I think we should allow Mr. Abate. Do you have anything for the good of the group to offer up?
The firstborn? Oh, good, sorry.
No, I'm good. 1.8 million's pretty good.
No, I don't have
No.
one. I got,
Mr. Campy, to your
2.3.
point, I'm sorry, so I went and asked Jennifer, okay, what do we need, what's left? So you've identified this
The tax collector fees.
2.3 million, and so we need roughly about another 730,000.
that's
One-
just to get you to a majority,
Yes.
Correct. Simple majority.
simple majority. I might be interested in seeing the whole 5.
Okay.
I'm not saying I will, but if we can do some of that, because 1.6% increase, or what's the increase then?
Jennifer, what would the increase be then? It'd be be what's on your screen. For the countywide, it'd be less than 0.5%, and then go down.
Then you have to get the,
It'd be, total would be 0.386%. Because that takes into account all the MSTUs, excluding the district MSTUs. I mean, the irony of this is, depending on where you live in the county, you could see no increase, because if I'm in the districts that are showing a negative there in the millage rate, down in the districts,
yeah.
there, I wouldn't have an increase quite possibly. So you just don't know. I mean, that's part of the
You're
dynamic.
talking
that-
about the MSTU funds? Yeah,
Those are-
however, what I would tell you about the MSTU funds, and for the people that are listening at home, those are the district funds, discretionary funds. As Commissioner Jenkins said, how do you pay for your playground projects?
District funds, I just spent 100,000 on,
I'm not recommending that you do away with them.
But
What
I
I'm
just
saying-
want, when you say that, I want people to be like cleared to understand, well, then get rid of that.
No, we don't want
Because
to.
I use those funds, and I know Commissioner Smith does very successfully as well, probably the best of all of us, has been able to manipulate those dollars around to get those projects that are very specific to his district done. Mr. Abate, I thank you for everything you've done, and I apologize that it's been a difficult process. But if this is what we're doing, then this is what we're doing. Because I voted for the tentative, but I don't want to walk out of here with 2 black eyes and a couple of my colleagues walking out here like they're fiscal conservative Republican heroes. I want to be a fiscal conservative Republican hero too.
so
We're all in or we're not.
Commissioner Jenkins.
could I offer up, I mean, I don't have any thing that I can offer up. I'd offer up 100,000 of my district funds.
You can't do it.
Can't do it?
Not unless you spend them in your district.
It doesn't help
Oh,
anything.
that's true. Yeah, never mind. Okay.
Come back.
Now, one thing we could do is, I'm looking at Mr. Stokas, and Mr. Donaldson just raised that some of these septic to sewer projects are ARPA eligible. I just don't know, George, what we've allocated
He's allocated
previously. I don't want to bump other projects to,
So
Yeah, I'm sorry.
let me just interject. So what we're talking about, obviously, if you're looking at trying to fund a septic to sewer with ARPA, the risk is that we don't have all the guidance on all of those. So if we wanted to swap out a project that was going to be constructed next year, there's more risk in doing that. So some of these projects we're funding partially next year and we're accumulating funds for a project in FY23. And so the example, the only project that is like that in there is Coral Gardens, where you have $652,000 next year, and then I think another $1 million+ in FY23. If that 652 was able to be ARPA funds, but you won't know, so you're putting yourself at risk that you'll have to increase your budget by 652 in 23, or you have to delay the project from 23 to 24. But it's the point of it is that there is $652,000 in the utilities budget next year. That's for a project that will not be constructed next year, but it might give you the opportunity to try to. It's a gamble, but there is some risk, but on the other hand, it would give staff at least time to say we could commit ARPA funds, but we would give us those intervening months to determine with Mr. Stoke and his team if it qualifies, and if it does, then we're there. But again, for the septic to sewer program, you are reducing that millage rate, and you'd be looking to catch back up in the future.
Miss Manning, is there any, are there any unallocated fund balance is accumulative of particular projects. So can they be allocated so that it minimizes this impact?
Well, we already estimated a certain amount of fund balance to offset some of the increases already for this budget.
So you've already used that trick.
Huh? Yes,
already used
we
that.
normally do. Yeah, and we won't know the fund balance until, all the collections in the next few weeks or so. We can guess, but,
So if you had to guess, what would the guess be for fund balance?
Well, I already did like $1.4 million
And you've used it.
that I utilized.
Yeah, that's fine. May I continue?
Yes.
I just wanted to respond to Mr. Donaldson. I'm not interested in gambling. I think Mr. Stokas has done a remarkable job of trying to look into the future of the federal government's guidelines on how that's going to work. I did say that the ARPA is just a 2-year crutch. I don't want to start trying to push projects, because if it fails, if we gamble and we're wrong, then we've accomplished nothing. Did you sit down in that seat, Mr. Stokas, because you have some suggestions for us?
No, I was just waiting for a question on ARPA. Now I can
Please
move.
stand up. We have and let's be clear. I mean, I know that this is a difficult process, and I look out into the crowd of professionals, and those of you that know me, I'm a huge supporter and proponent of the staff. And this is a difficult process, but I've worked in large corporate situations where they draw all of the departments or managers into a conference room and they say, this is the cut, and there is no, I don't think I can. This is the cut. So what I guess would be our next recommendation before we continue into specifics, this group of professionals, if you got a couple of bucks in the back pocket somewhere and you want to come forward to the seat, voluntarily.
Don't all rush at once.
Kevin Abate is still breathing. He's still looking, he's okay. If any of our departments have, say, look, I have a project that we've been working on. We're glad to get it done. It's a good project, but it could sit for a year. We would appreciate that. Here we go. Mr.
right.
Gordon, come forward. And Mr. Zama, why don't you come with them? Now, there's a possibility that you might make a suggestion that some version of the commission is not willing to do, but I appreciate the fact that, wouldn't you rather voluntarily give up something versus us pulling it away from you?
Well, all of the projects we brought forward to you in the capital project list were projects we thought were important projects to do.
Agreed.
But we do have a project, the Cargo Way Extension. It's a capacity project that will help with traffic congestion out near Citrus Boulevard, 714. It's going to be a connection kind of near where the FPL property is on the north end, and it's going to connect out to Citrus Boulevard. That's a $500,000 project that's funded out of Road MSTU. We may be able to find other funding sources. We may be able to get money out of a developer for that. So if we defer that project but still work on funding, that would be a way to get $500,000 on the
Does
ledger.
that count? That's road MSTU, does that count?
That was part of it, yes.
Yeah, road MSU.
What district is that project in?
That's in your district.
Okay, so now I'm in for,
Well, and I can confirm, we've been in contact with the developer, and they do have plans. They are looking to move forward with the project. They've met with the county engineer.
thank you. May you be an inspiration to your colleagues.
Do you want us to stay here, or are you going to speak with
Well, no.
You can only stay in that seat as long as you're giving stuff up. Do you have anything else? You have a tremendous budget.
We have the
Anything from 1, 3, 2, 4?
There's a project that I don't think we're going to have support for, but we have $700,000 in the traffic safety measures. That's our traffic calming project, and we have tons of community support for that one, but that's $700,000 in the road MSTU as well.
Do you think you could do, look, I'm all about that, and I use some district funds for that as well. My playgrounds have been built. Can we take 200,000 without damaging that project?
Sure, that program was funded at 350 up until this year, and the board added,
these-
doubled the funding this year.
So that's 200,000. What were you calling that?
That's the traffic safety measures.
Let's just call it traffic measures.
Okay.
We could do that. I'd be willing to put more of my MSTU funds in traffic calming.
So, do we have a tote board or something with the big number behind us? If
No,
I'm not-
you're at 3 million. So I have a suggestion, and talking with Ms. Manning, there were a couple of items in the general fund, particularly that we're guessing at. One was the tax collector fee. We would anticipate that fee going up as we collect more ad valorem taxes. But at the same time, she possibly could give us more money back.
Yes, there are
Get her on
times
the
when she actually returns,
than
funding
what
back
we-
to the county, so we
Yeah,
can
we haven't seen her in a
gamble.
while. Couple
Yeah.
of years.
Yeah, so that was 650,000. And then we had,
Wait, let's stop there. Is that a legitimate 650? Or
Yes.
is it,
well, it's going to be dependent on, I'll reach out to Ruth and tell her our expectation in
should we
doing
make
that.
it 4, just a hedge, or do you want to put it in for 650?
That's what it's been.
No, it's been 4. And
No,
this year we budgeted, and she came in with 4 point,
Well, for example, we budget in the general fund $6 million this year. The fees ended up to be 6.6. So I bumped it up 650 to kind of level it off. But if she returns additional funding, then that'll balance it. Or we collect more than 95% of the taxes that we allocate. So sometimes we collect 97% or 96%. So that would be additional money that we would have to offset.
So what do you feel comfortable us putting on the page that would be a realistic number?
I think you could do the 400.
400,000?
Because he just gave up additional funding, so we should be.
Yeah, I don't want to pick a number that makes us feel good and then we don't get it. I want to pick a number that you feel professionally is legit.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ruth.
Thank
Is
you.
that 250 that we,
No, 400.
Before you do that, that number's already been accounted for, right?
No. You're not adding a
no, it's
number that,
impacting your general fund because we
general.
put it in there as an increase.
Right, but you
not counting it
figure,
twice.
you figure counting on those dollars coming in to your equation. That's not
No.
above and beyond. Unless I'm misunderstanding,
Okay.
there's
so-
not going to be
Let him finish.
she may come back to us at whatever date she does that with her check that she brings to us. But that's the amount of money you're anticipating into the ad valorem budget that you've presented.
Yes, but a lot of times when she gives us her estimated amount, it's always more. So
But that $400,000 number, that's what it was last year, right? That's what she brought us, was
No.
400?
no,
Million.
No, that
point-
was excess.
Excess was almost 600,000, if I
no.
remember.
The excess fee, I think it's close to $4 million.
$4 million.
That
No,
she
I
br-
mean, but above and beyond what we.
above and beyond. Yes, it was about 800.
Yeah.
So we got 800
Commissioner
more.
Smith is asking you, are you counting this number twice?
No,
Okay.
no.
So when you said 400,000, that's not anywhere in your budget, that's extra going on this page. you feel confident that Root's number, the 4.4 million, will come in higher, and there's
Yes.
going to be 400,000 above and beyond.
Yes.
So we don't need to shave our number down tonight and then find out
Later on that
she
you're in
shows up
trouble.
that, oh,
No.
we're counting, and you think it'll be 650, but you're conservatively telling us 400,000.
I'm being
So
concerned.
you might have a plus of 250 down the road,
Mm-hmm.
but we're going to use 400. And you've been at this for how many years?
Since 2010, I think, yeah.
Okay, so you're confident that 400,000, because we don't need to put wishful thinking numbers on the sheet.
Mm-hmm. No,
Now
but
we're at-
it'll be fine.
We're at $3.4 million.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking out there. Anybody else got a little kind of something clever? Lisa, you look like you want to step up.
No, she's part
Oh, part of your team?
Yeah, for the traffic calming.
What about Miss Manning? Do you have any other suggestions? That was a good one.
What else?
Jeff Doherty trying to look away.
I mean, the only other thing I was thinking of was the TPP, but that's dependent
Yeah,
on
that-
how much they're going to put on that property. So that's kind of a,
Yeah, I wouldn't take any
no,
chances.
I know,
with the
but I
TP.
mean, it could be higher, it could be lower. We just
Well,
don't know.
let's just discuss that so people understand what Miss Krista is talking about. The TPP is the tangible personal property, and you're talking specifically about our warehouse out in Indiantown? Out in, yes, I was just steering clear. So is that a conversation that we can have with our friends at FPL? Because I remember being in negotiations when we were trying to work out their negotiation and their discount. And at the time, they said that they were keeping some I'm not saying that we're going to have a number tonight. I know our attorney's getting nervous. What I'm saying is that they keep X amount of dollars in inventory out there, which is a taxable windfall for us. But when we were having the conversation, let's just use round numbers, they were saying that they kept $500 million worth of stuff out there. But they had well over $1 billion worth of stuff that they keep somewhere. It might be worth a conversation just to soften the blow down the road. Maybe by September 28th, we'll know that you can ask them if there is anything else. I know that a handful of truckfuls of items would change this budget. They call them nuclear spares. They're worth hundreds of millions of dollars. I'm just asking.
I would caution the board strongly because I drafted that document and it specifically provides that there's no guarantees. That they made a very large point, if you all remember, about saying there's no guarantees. We're not going to tell you. It could vary anytime. The other thing is that a lot of their timing, as I recall during the negotiations, had to do with moving their inventory up, and so the assessment of that value is done at the state level through the property appraiser, and so it's all about how quickly, in accordance with what's occurring statewide with their operations. So
Understood.
I'm not sure that they could. I understand the optimism, but I don't think they would be able to tell you. That's what they used to say in the past.
Okay, so I completely agree with you. Let's do this, and I appreciate that advice. We're not going to add any TPP numbers to our ledger sheet tonight, but let's still have that conversation with FPL, because if they're just strategizing, and I know a lot of those folks, if they're just strategizing on where they're keeping stuff, this is not their only warehouse, but it is centrally located. It was one of the reasons they wanted to stay where they were. Let's just ask them as just a plus for Martin County if they have the ability to put anything else there. Because if we ask and no one else does, then maybe, and they're our friends. Okay, so we're at 3.4. Jen, what do you got?
Poor thing. Gotta-
Well, she's coming up. Here she comes.
Oh, no. Library.
I don't really have a whole lot to give. I just wanted to say we were kind of
your
the
name for the
fallout
record.
department. Sorry. Jen Salas, Library Director. We were kind of the fallout department during the recession, and we are still trying to recoup our collection, our staffing. We still get complaints about our hours at 4 of our locations that are only open 5 days a week. So I ask if you're able to spare us this time.
You're not allowed to sit in the seat then. You can't come up and
I'll
tell
go.
us you're giving. Seat's reserved. That seat's very expensive. Here he comes.
Jeff's coming.
Here he comes. Come on up, Jeff.
He's got a million.
Good luck.
He's got a million. I feel a million.
I don't know if I'd be rubbing Kevin Abate for good luck.
I didn't see any blood, so that's what. Jeff Doherty, General Services Director for the record. At the Public Safety Complex, it's due for a change out of the chiller and a generator. We have planned that out for fiscal year 25, and we would start saving it for a number of years. So we could push back some of the funding for next year and switch it. In fiscal year 25, we have 300. This year we have 525. If we switch them, there's $225,000.
225, I'm putting it on the sheet. Thank you. Anything else?
All good for now.
Okay.
So what is
Susan, do you have any money?
What is that called?
I'm putting public safety chiller, 225. Come on up, Susan. But only make the walk of pride.
She's.
Do you have any can maneuver around?
Commissioners,
State your
I
name.
believe my
State your
statutes
name for the
don't
record.
allow me to give any.
State your name for the record.
Susan Corrs, Community Development. I don't believe my statutes allow me to give any money back.
Are you using any ad valorem
dollars?
It's TIF though, right? I mean.
Yeah.
Everything is TIF?
Yeah.
No ad
Or
valorem?
grants.
No ad valorem anywhere in any of your projects?
No, the only way you get anything out of that would be to reduce the percentages, and this board has worked hard to get them back up to
Exactly.
where they are.
I would be.
Yeah, we're not going to do that.
Thank you.
Okay. We're running out of seats in the.
So where are you, Jennifer, with the three?
Mike Merker. Mike
Yeah.
Merker, come on forward, Mike Merker. You got a lot of money. Volunteer it before we have to look on our own.
Okay, so I had 400, right?
We're at 3.625.
Good evening, Commissioners. For the record, Mike Merker, I'm your Chief Information Officer.
What do you have for us, Mike?
Nothing.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do, Mike.
The only thing I might possibly be able to offer up, and I'd have to, I'm looking over at the boss. We have a sinking fund that we use to accumulate funding for firewall replacements. It's the devices that keep our perimeter network from being invaded by all the bad guys out there.
Don't
right?
start telling stories. Just tell us about the money.
175, we can defer it for 1 year.
He throws the firewall thing out there to
Right.
scare us.
With all the other municipalities and everything, examples of people being hacked.
I understand that.
There's no way.
I'm not willing to. I count firewall as public.
Go sit down. Go away.
But maybe as something else.
Do we have something that this is upgrading?
Well, let
we
me
could
let me
defer that.
explain, please. Give me a moment. So, Commissioner Jenkins, we are in the process of replacing firewalls right now. So we're buying brand spanking new firewalls. They're going in this year.
Okay.
All right. We've already, committed to that. And so all I'm saying is that we defer the accumulation for the next upgrade. By 1 year. That's what I'm offering.
Okay.
Thank you. Hold on that thought. Are you comfortable with that?
Yes.
Goes on the sheet. 175.
Firewall.
I'm just calling it technical upgrades.
There you go.
Oh, broke my pencil. I can't go anymore.
Jennifer, you still have the 730
I'm negative now.
in there. That's because you didn't back out the 730.
3.175.
Oh.
Who's not here? Who is smart enough not to show?
Am I dismissed?
Yes, sir. Unless you
Unless
have
you have
something
something
That's
else.
Chairs only for money donations. Kevin,
Well,
are you coming back?
In fairness,
Look at you, Kevin.
Commissioner Campy, in fairness, I reached out to the leadership team and told them those that had ad valorem funding would need to be here. So you've got like utilities and solid waste that have had no
None.
ad valorem.
All right, that's fair.
Yeah.
I think we're there.
We're there?
We're in the negative now.
Yeah, but let's see if we can't get to the full thing and get a 5-0.
Really?
It is totally negative.
Not boots on the
What do you mean it's a
We don't have an ad valorem increase any longer?
Well, the bottom.
The bottom line is a negative 1 point.
Yeah, but let's
see if we can get a 5.
let's just see what we're doing so far. Mr. Abate, good for you.
The only thing I had that we could delay is master planning for Lance Corporal Justin and Lincoln
Oh,
Park.
yeah, that's perfect.
For $100,000
That is
master
rich.
planning. So it's in District 5,
Of course it is.
and District 1.
Why, Justin Wilson?
I mean, it's master
How
planning.
much is it?
It's at, so,
One is paying for the master planning,
not this, Langford Park, no.
75,000.
This is 100,000 total, and we have some impact fee money rolled in, but we're talking about 100,000 in ad valorem. But I think that we can delay the master planning a year.
Good for you.
We'll have no funding for those projects, but we want to start the planning process, so it's completely appropriate.
Yes.
Hey, good for you.
We
So
can
that's
get it.
100. So now
100,000 out of
100,000.
CIP.
275.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
CIP.
What is it called?
It's
Park master plan.
So, because of the dynamics of the MSTUs, and I appreciate the exercise, but overall, your total millage now, with all the MSTUs included, with the changes that we've made, you're at a reduction.
Like a full-blown legitimate reduction?
Yes, sir. For the taxpayers in Martin County that live in the unincorporated area particularly, and then those in, that they're going to see that reduction.
We get a reduction in.
But you said we needed to get to about $5 million, and we're...
Well, because
Oh, so now you've tightened it up and you feel comfortable at 3.275?
Numbers and we can see 'em.
yeah, it's because Commissioner Campy, some taxable values are different in some of the MSTUs, and so you can't just go to the bottom and get a number. You have to go into each one. So as we're layering these in, you're able to see those reductions.
So the 1.6% that you were speaking of is now
Gone.
0%.
Correct. It's actually a negative. Almost.
And then let's just, to be clear for our colleagues, so let's recap. Do you mind?
Okay.
Go ahead.
We had $500,000 coming out of the golf course, which was for exotics.
Right.
And the golf course is in whose district?
District 2.
District number 2. We had $700,000 coming out of Charlie Layton Park, which is District 5. We had $500,000 coming out of Phipps Park in impacts. No, first it was 500 in impacts fees coming out of Phipps, going to Citrus.
Not Charlie Layton.
Charlie Layton, 700,000 was from Charlie Layton, correct, Mr. Abate? Charlie Layton, yes. Okay, so I'm right. $500,000 in impact fees that were going from Phipps to Citrus.
Citrus, okay.
So it was a wash, because then you were going to take the ad valorem that you had in Citrus and put it back in. So it's just for our argument's sake. And that Phipps is in your District 4, correct? And then $600,000 for the pads out of Phipps, District 4. $500,000 from the road MSTU and other things for Cargo Way, which is in Palm City, District number 5. Traffic measures is universal, correct? That was across the board, so that's countywide. Ruth Ski, we're counting her as countywide. Public safety chiller, that's a countywide. That really doesn't benefit anybody specifically. Technical upgrades, countywide. Park master plan was Justin Wilson Park and a little bit from somewhere in District 1?
Yes.
Is it 50-50? Yeah. So District 1 is in for $50,000. District 3 is in for $0.
Apparently, I'm not spending any money in District 3, so I got to change that.
Gotta figure out a plan. So at 6:53,
It is saying it's
Miss Manning, Miss Woods, Miss Krista, Mr. Donaldson, and Stokas, our senior leadership. Are we okay with this?
Yes, sir. I mean, every year you have to look at what you have in your budget to balance. And so all I would ask is this board, as we proceed into next year, is when we're having these meetings and we express to you that there's an increase in ad valorem, that we get direction at that time. Because we put it together, we get head nods all that, and so we're putting together a budget that we thought you wanted, as a majority. So I get that.
However, based on your initial conversation, your introduction, you would have needed a supermajority.
Yes, sir.
And we didn't gamble at all tonight. We didn't gamble on any projects or any numbers that you didn't think were genuine. We didn't gamble with ARPA money. And I wouldn't have wanted to gamble and wait till we had a slap each other on the back meeting, and then we come to a vote at 8:30 at night and it fails, and now we're doing this at 8:30 at night, because I don't think you were going to get a supermajority. I'm not asking my colleagues if you were. I would be very disappointed if after this whole process, we don't get a 5-0 on a zero increased budget. I would hope. Now, I can't force my colleagues to vote, but I led the charge on purpose. Everyone got to participate. There, I believe, is equal, relatively equal input across the districts. All of the departments gave what they could. Parks obviously gave more, and I appreciate that. If there's ARPA windfalls or things that come our way, they should obviously go back into making those projects whole again. But let's remember, and I know Commissioner Hurd's words ring in my ear that we decimated FIPS. I hope you would agree now that that's not the case. The cement pads and switching the money over, we heard from our expert in parks, it didn't decimate it, because I don't want to do that. I would hope that you don't still feel that way. Charlie Layton took a $700,000 punch in the face. But I know that we'll get there. We'll get creative with Ms. Corus and I are working on a $300,000, $400,000 grant for the Palm City Place. Yeah, so I mean, we're there. I hope that, in our result that we can get to this vote. And I agree with what you're saying, Ms. Krista, my final comment. But as far as I'm concerned, this was a successful meeting. This is exactly what we are supposed to be doing tonight. And the public, if they're watching, I think that they would be appreciative that our staff came forward with suggestions. Everything that they originally asked for was legit. But understanding that the parameters or what the set of circumstances is right this minute, not in April or in July, right this minute, this was the right thing to do.
So what I would ask, if we can, Chair, if we could take a break for about 10 minutes, 15, how much time you need? 15?
Aaron, let's go to Don, and then we'll.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't realize he had a light on.
That was one of the things I was going to say. We're going to need a break so Stephanie can do the analysis. And I was just going to only say that as your Deputy County Administrator representing, also helping Taryn and the staff, is that as much as we appreciate and we cutting these funds, we're don't want the public to feel that everything in the budget was good items, and a lot of these are going to carry forward and will be on the list to be reconsidered next year. The other piece is that cutting the assessment on how much we're going to get from the tax collector. There are a couple of nuances in here that we may have to come back to you the end of next year to, if the revenues don't come in, which we would do anyway. But I just want to be that as much as we can certainly participate in this process, and we're happy to do so. And we can cut things quickly when we need to.
Yeah,
but it's,
I don't think
these
we
were
cut
necessary projects that will come back.
I don't believe we cut fat out of the budget. We cut some muscle out of the budget today.
Yes.
But, these were not, I don't think anybody padded their budget.
No.
Ms. Krista won't allow it. I know
No.
you goes through this tight, and I know that department heads understand that they can't come through with the whole Christmas wish list. All of the projects, everything that we did take out was legitimate, and we've postponed it.
And Commissioner Campbell, thank you for leading the charge on that. And I agree, staff did the best job putting together, and we were able to trim some things out. So we're going to take a 15-minute break,
ma'am, please.
closed captioning break, and we will be back at 7:15.
Do the resolution numbers stay the same?
Okay, good evening. We are welcome back to our September 14th tentative budget hearing, our first fiscal budget hearing. And we have just come back from our break. And Ms. Manning, we are going to start with adopting the resolutions. Is that correct?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Yeah, your changes, Commissioner, impacted 4 resolutions, 2 that have millage rates on them, and 2 that affect the fund total. So you have A and B, and then Q and R. Otherwise, the rest of them are the same.
Okay, so Commissioner Smith, you're going to read the resolutions, and you have the new resolutions that.
What's weird is the resolution numbers are all the same. So I'm not sure about that. Anyway, Madam Chair, if you want, I'll start. Board, I would move item A, which is the taxing authority of the Board of the County Commissioners countywide, rollback rate 6.5122. Percentage of increase over the rollback rate is 4.32. Tentative millage rate to be set at 6.7934.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Motion carries 4-1 with Commissioner Hurd dissenting.
Madam Chair, move item B, which is the Board of County Commissioners countywide taxing authority, Board of County Commissioners, fund total $215,439,073.
Second.
Okay. Now, just to clarify, Ms. Manning, these new sheets took into the account those changes?
Yes, ma'am.
So it was a flat non-increase?
Right, there's no increase. Actually, there's a slight decrease.
Okay. So we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Motion carries 4-1 with Commissioner Hurd dissenting.
Madam Chair, move item C, as in cat, district.
I like that.
You want that from now on?
Yes.
Okay, good. Which is taxing authority, District 1 MSTU, rollback rate .0794, percentage of increase over the rollback rate, a reduction of 0.50. Tentative millage rate to be set at .079.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, motion carries unanimously.
Move item D, which is taxing authority, District 1 MSTU, fund total $300,000.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Move item E, as in Edward, taxing authority, District 2 MSTU, rollback rate .1059, percentage of increase over the rollback rate, a reduction of minus 1.04, a tentative millage rate to be set at .1048.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Campy, seconded by Commissioner.
Smith.
Oh, sorry. Motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries unanimously.
Move item F, as in Frank, District 2 MSTU taxing authority, fund total $215,000.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Move item G, as in girl, taxing authority, District 3 MSTU, rollback rate to be set at .059, percentage of increase over the rollback rate, a reduction of 1.36, tentative millage rate to be set at .0582.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Move item H, taxing authority, District 3 MSTU, fund total $208,000.
Second.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Move item I, taxing authority, District 4 MSTU, rollback rate 0.0632, percentage of increase over the rollback rate, a reduction of 0.95. I'm sorry, tentative millage rate to be set at 0.0626.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Move item J, Taxing Authority District 4 MSTU, fund total 200,000, even.
Second.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Chair, move item K, Taxing Authority District 5 MSTU, rollback rate .0669, percentage increase over the rollback rate, a reduction of 1.05, tentative millage rate to be set at .0662.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Move item L, Taxing Authority District 5 MSTU, fund total 250,000.
Second.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Move item M as in Mary, Taxing Authority Special District A-61 Hutchinson Island MSTU, rollback rate to be set at .2034, percentage increase over the rollback rate 21.63, tentative millage rate to be set at .2474.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Move item N as in Nancy, Taxing Authority Special District A-61 Hutchinson Island MSTU, fund total $392,250.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Move item O as in Oyster, Taxing Authority Fire Rescue District MSTU unincorporated, the rollback rate to be set at 2.5951, percentage of increase over the rollback rate 3.41, tentative millage rate 2.6835.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-1 with Commissioner Hurd dissenting.
Move item P as in Peter, Taxing Authority Fire Rescue MSTU unincorporated, fund total $57,063,993.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-1 with Commissioner Hurd dissenting.
This is one of the new sheets. Item Q, Taxing Authority Countywide MSTU unincorporated stormwater and road maintenance, rollback rate to be set at .5865, percentage of increase over the rollback rate 2.59, tentative millage rate to be set at .6017.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor? Aye. Motion, opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
This is another one of the new sheets. Item R as in Robert, Taxing Authority Countywide MSTU unincorporated stormwater and road maintenance, fund total $10,091,972.
Second.
Just because that's a new sheet, is that just somebody verify that's the correct number?
Reduction.
How much?
700,000.
It's on the screen, 10,091.
Oh, okay, okay. So we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, move item S as in Sam, Taxing Authority MSTU Parks and Recreation, rollback rate to be set at .1901, percentage of increase over the rollback rate, a reduction of -1.00, tentative millage rate to be set at .1882.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Move item T as in Tom, Taxing Authority MSTU Parks and Recreation, fund total $3,471,042.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Item U, non-taxing fund, general unincorporated fund total, $5,699,368.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Move item V as in Victor, non-taxing fund, building and permitting, fund total $9,108,000 even.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Move item W as in water, non-taxing fund impact fees. Fund total $3,837,326.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Move item X, non-taxing fund special revenue. Fund total $21,613,298.
Second?
We have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Move item Y, non-taxing fund grants. Fund total $567,457.
Second?
Okay, motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Move item Z as in zebra, non-taxing fund other debt service. Fund total $10,590,913.
Second?
We have a motion by
No.
Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
You skipped ahead? Okay. So now we're allegedly on. Allegedly, we're on item double A as in Amelia. How do you like that? Hey, we worked that one in. Non-taxing fund other capital projects. Fund total $11,982,768.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Move item double B as in baby. Ooh. You can carry that where you want to carry it. I was just referring to my daughter, that's all. Non-taxing fund, utilities enterprise fund
Most
total.
of us don't have babies anymore.
Ooh.
You're the young, virile one.
Well, you might have grandchildren one of these days. Fund, you do. We're off track here. Fund total, $90,157,455.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Move item CC as in cat, non-taxing fund, solid waste enterprise, fund total $40,700,323.
We have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries
We can
unanimously.
do that. We can do, move item DD as in Don Donaldson. Non-taxing fund airport enterprise, fund total $2,266,213.
Second?
We have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Moved item double E, Eddie Edward. No Eddie Edward? Non-taxing fund golf course enterprise, fund total $2,119,598.
Second?
Motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Move item FF as in front end Friday. Non-taxing fund, that's for you car guys. You like that? Okay. Non-taxing fund in internal service funds. Fund total $34,187,622.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Move item double G. What do we want to do for double G? I don't know.
Brenda Garbo.
Ooh, that was good. Non-taxing fund trust, fund total $125,000.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
And the last one is move item double H. Hugh Hefner? Wow, that's wow, Ed. Non-taxing fund, community redevelopment area trust, fund total $5,904,251.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Motion carries 4-1 with Commissioner Hurd dissenting.
All right. See you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Sarah, do you want these or no?
Ms. Manning, do you need anything from us to complete the budget
Just
hearing?
would like to thank staff for all their hard work and dedication, and have a good night.
I would like to thank staff and my colleagues for, working through this so collegial tonight. So with that, we are adjourned.